The worst part of owning a pool isn't the endless skimming of laves or the fortune spent on chlorine. It's the realization that some people see your hardened sanctuary as their personal public utility. My neighbor Karen was the self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac. 50-something, bottle blonde with roots as dark as her intentions, she carried a clipboard like a scepter. For 20 years, I'd busted my back on construction sites, climbing scaffolding with screaming shoulders and busted knuckles, just to buy this slice of Texas heaven. Every tile in that pool was laid with my sweat. Every board on the deck was nailed by my hands. But to Karen, my property was just the best free amenity in the neighborhood. It started with damp footprints I didn't recognize, then a stray towel. Eventually, I caught her lounging in my water, sipping cheap Chardonnay. When I told her the pool was private, she didn't apologize. She smirked, that jagged, entitled twist of the lips that makes your blood pressure spike. "Don't be so selfish," she'd said, adjusting her sunglasses. "It's just water, neighbors share." Then came the entourage. Her band of HOA ladies began treating my backyard like a five-star resort. They'd waltz through my side gate with coolers, Bluetooth speakers blasting Bon Jovi, and giant inflatable flamingos. I'd come home from a 10-hour shift to find potato chip crumbs ground into my cedar decking, and once, a soggy slice of pepperoni pizza bobbing in the filter. I'd tried being the nice guy, I'd tried the firm talk, but when I saw her Facebook post, a selfie of her splashing in my pool with the caption, "HOA privilege, sharing is caring," something in me shifted. I wasn't going to be the angry neighbor shouting from the porch anymore. I was going to be the architect of her downfall. I didn't need the police. I didn't need a shouting match. I just needed to be smarter than she was. The following Saturday morning, the air was thick with the scent of jasmine and impending consequences. I stood in my shed, the dim light catching the dust motes. On the workbench sat a heavy-duty industrial jug of bleach and a specialized pool tinting agent I'd sourced online. I wasn't going to hurt anyone. I'm a builder, not a monster, but I was going to make sure their vanity paid the price. I leaned over the pool's chemical feeder, my movements precise. I adjusted the pH levels to a very specific, high alkalinity setting. Then I added the tint, a clear, reacting agent that remains invisible in the water but bonds to high-end hair dyes and cheap spray tans. As I worked, I felt a calm, cold confidence. I wasn't just fixing a pool, I was setting a stage. By 2:00 p.m., I was sitting inside my darkened living room, the blinds tilted just enough to see out. I had a cold beer in one hand and my phone in the other, connected to the 4 high-definition 4K cameras I'd hidden in the eaves of the roof earlier that week. True to form, the gate creaked open at 2:15. Karen led the march. She was wearing a neon-pink swimsuit and a floppy hat, followed by 3 of her lieutenants lugging a wheeled cooler. They didn't even look at the house. They didn't care if I was home. In their minds, I was just the construction guy who provided the water. "God, it's hot," I heard Karen's voice filter through the camera's microphone. "I told the board we should just annex this into the common area. It's practically a waste only having one family use it." I watched the screen as they dove in. Splash, the flamingo was launched, the wine was poured. They were laughing, mocking my selfishness, and taking selfies for their little Facebook group. I stayed in the shadows, sipping my beer, watching the digital clock on the camera feed tick upward. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. The reacting agent takes about 30 minutes of full immersion to really set. At the 35-minute mark, the transformation began. It started with the blonde. Karen's expensive, salon-treated highlights began to take on a strange, swampy hue. It wasn't green, it was a vibrant, neon chartreuse. One of her friends, a woman named Pam who clearly overdid the bottled bronzer, started to look streaky. The water was reacting with her fake tan, turning her skin a mottled, bruised shade of purple-gray. "Is the water feeling itchy to you?" Pam asked, scratching her arm. "It's just the sun," Karen dismissed her, taking a deep gulp of wine. I decided it was time to make my appearance. I stepped out onto the deck, moving slowly, my boots thudding softly on the wood. I didn't yell, I didn't wave my arms. I just leaned against the railing and looked down at them. The laughter died instantly. Karen looked up, her face already tightening into that practiced mask of indignation. "Oh, back early," she sneered. "We were just—" "I know what you were doing, Karen," I said, my voice low and steady. I held up my phone. And so do the 4,000 people currently watching the live stream of my security feed. She froze. "What?" "I decided to take your advice on sharing," I continued, a small, sarcastic smile playing on my lips. "I'm sharing your afternoon with the local police department and the actual president of the HOA. You know, the one who replaced you after you were fired for conduct unbecoming." Karen scrambled to stand up in the shallow end. As she rose, the sun hit her hair. It was no longer blonde. It was the color of a radioactive tennis ball. "My hair," she shrieked, catching her reflection in the sliding glass door. "What did you do to my hair?" "Me, nothing," I said, tilting my head, "but I did put up those 3 private property and danger, chemical treatment in progress signs this morning. 1 on the gate, 2 on the fence. I assume you saw them when you broke the new padlock I installed." She looked toward the gate. The signs were there, bright, legal, and impossible to miss. I'd caught her on camera stepping right past them. "You did this on purpose," she screamed, her voice hitting a frequency that made my ears ring. "I'll sue you. I'll have this pool filled with concrete." "With what evidence?" I asked calmly. "The footage of you trespassing after being warned, the footage of you breaking a legal lock, or maybe the footage of you ignoring safety warnings about the industrial-grade pH balancing agents I use for my private maintenance." Just then, the sound of a siren drifted from the end of the street. I'd timed the call perfectly. 2 squad cars pulled up to the curb. Officer Miller, a guy I'd known for years from the local hardware store, walked around the side of the house. He took one look at the 4 women, one purple-streaked, one with neon green hair, all of them dripping on my deck, and had to bite his lip to keep from laughing. "Everything all right here, Lou?" Miller asked me, though he never took his eyes off the human highlighter standing in my pool. "Just a bit of a trespassing issue, officer," I said. "I have the footage of the break-in ready for you, along with a list of the damages to the filter and the deck." Karen was losing it. She was hysterical, pointing at me, screaming about traps and assault. But the law is a funny thing. It doesn't care about your feelings when you're standing on someone else's property with a broken lock behind you. "Ma'am," Miller said, his voice dropping the friendly tone, "you're on private property. There are clearly posted signs. You've admitted to entering without permission. Now, you can either wrap those towels around yourselves and come with us quietly, or we can do this the hard way. But either way, you're leaving." The queen of the HOA was escorted out in handcuffs, her green hair matted and dripping onto her neon pink suit. Her friends followed, sobbing and trying to hide their purple-streaked faces from the neighbors, who had all come out onto their porches to watch the show. As the squad cars pulled away, the street fell silent. The next day, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. I didn't even have to speak. I just handed over a thumb drive. The footage was undeniable. Not only was Karen slapped with a massive fine and a permanent restraining order regarding my property, but the community spirit she loved to brag about evaporated instantly. The other neighbors, tired of her bullying for years, finally felt empowered to speak up about her other inspections. She moved out 3 months later, sold the house at a loss just to escape the green hair Karen nicknames that followed her every time she went to the grocery store. Now I sit on my deck every Sunday. The water is a perfect, shimmering blue. The gate is locked, the cameras are rolling, and the only sound I hear is the wind in the trees and the occasional splash of my kids. Peace isn't something that's given to you. Sometimes you have to build it, and sometimes you have to dye it green to make sure people respect it. I took a final sip of my beer, looking at the spot where the flamingo used to bob. It was a good day to be selfish.